Hey guys, we are continuing finding volume this week, and so I wanted to provide you with another resource that could break down how to do that. Volume can go from a very basic concept from counting these cubes to a very difficult concept where we get to additive or complex volume. And that is where we're having to add more than one volume to find a total volume. We've learned in the past that volume is the amount of space an object takes up. When you're looking at a two-dimensional shape, it is flat. And so in order to calculate how much space it takes up, we use area. Well, when we transition to a three-dimensional object, we're still using area. However, we're now adding an extra element, a height. So we're now using length, width, and height to calculate how much space that object takes up. Let's start off small. We're looking at an object as of right now that uses unit cubes. And I don't know if you have realized this or maybe not used this strategy before, but sometimes it can be a little tricky to know how many cubes there are because of the perspective that you see. There's a front view, a back view, a side-to-side view, top and bottom view. So we have to make sure we hit all of those angles to make sure we know how many cubes or unit cubes there are. So we're going to take a look at this front layer. We're looking at this front layer head on, so it's a little bit easier to find that there are 2 unit cubes. However, when we transition to the middle layer and we try to calculate the middle layer, we have 1 unit cube on top, 3 unit cubes on the side, but what we don't see right away are the 2 cubes that are hidden behind the front layer. So that gives us a total of 6 unit cubes. Lastly, we have that back layer. You see the 2 unit cubes on top, the 3 unit cubes on the side, but once again, we have some hidden cubes. There are 6 hidden cubes behind that middle layer. And I know this because if those weren't there, the 2 cubes on top would fall straight to the bottom. So that gives me a total of 11 unit cubes. To find the total volume of these cubic units, we're going to add the cubes from the front layer, cubes from the middle layer, and cubes from the very back layer to get a total of 19 cubic units. It's really important to add that cubic units in there. If I just said 19, I wouldn't know if I was measuring in inches, feet, cubic units. You got to be very specific when it comes to that. All right, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to pause the video. That's right, pause it. Did you pause it? If you hear me still talking, you didn't pause it. So pause the video, and I want you to try this one on your own. I'm waiting. All right, welcome back. So now that you have tried this out to see how many there are, here's what we know. There's 1 unit cube in the front, 4 unit cubes in that middle layer, 1 was hidden, and 9 in the back layer, giving us a total of 14 cubic units. All right, let's move on to the next one. Now you can tell that we went from random cubic units to now we're looking at what's called a rectangular prism. A rectangular prism is compared to what a square or rectangle is in a 2D shape. So right now we're using these unit cubes still. That's our form of measurement to count how much space this rectangular prism takes up. So we're going to take a look at the length of this rectangular prism. This length has 3 cubic units. Now we have the width, how wide something is. It also has 3 cubes. And lastly, we're talking about the height or the number of layers. So in this case, we have a height of 2, or there's actually a bottom layer and a top layer. So now that we've gathered all this information, what do we do with it? I'm glad you asked. Well, part of finding volume is to calculate all 3 of these forms of measurements together to get the total. So 3 units by 3 units by 2 units gives you a total of 18 cubic units. All right, you know what time it is. This is where you pause, 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 pause the video, pause the video. Did you pause it? Am I paused? All right. So this is where you're going to calculate length, width, and height of the video. Hopefully you paused it and stopped it and tried it on your own. If you didn't, do it now. Stop the video. Try it out. All right, we're back. Hopefully you stopped it and tried it for yourself. So let's recap. How long this rectangular prism is, or the length, was 4. Hopefully you got that right. The width is 3. And the height has 3 layers tall. A bottom layer, a middle layer, and a top layer. So did you remember what to do with all 3 of these dimensions? Oh yeah, we're gonna multiply them together. So 4 times 3 times 3 is 36 cubic units. Hopefully I had some, wish I had some confetti to throw out for you. All right, this time you might see a rectangular prism and some unit cubes. Oftentimes we deal with these large shapes or very, very large boxes or structures, and we don't have time to pour thousands and millions and billions of these unit cubes inside the box to see how much it is. So we're gonna just use the cubes this time to figure out the dimension. Did you remember earlier I talked about how we used area to calculate the volume? Well, this is where that's going to come into play. But first, we're going to go back to the basics. The length, or how long this rectangular prism is, based on the front view, is 6 cubic units. The width, this is a little bit harder to count, is 8 cubic units. And our height, or how many layers it has, is 5. When you multiply those dimensions together, you get a total of 240 cubic units. This time I want to show you how we can use area or base to find that out. So our length and width is what makes up the area. We call that a base, the bottom of the structure, the bottom layer. So when you look at this base, you have 6 as your length, 8 as your width. So we say that your base is 48 square units. That is when you take your base of 48 and your layers, which there were 5 layers, and you multiply them together. So 48 by the 5 layers, or by the height of 5, gives you a total volume again of 240 cubic units. Either way works. Either way, you're multiplying to find a total volume. So you guessed it, we're giving you a chance to practice. So what I want you to do is either apply the formula that we use for length by width times height, or you can then practice finding the base, multiplying that by how many layers there are to find your total volume. So you guessed it. This is where you pause the video. Go ahead, pause it. All right, did you do it? Let's see if you're right. So length times width. 4 times 5 is 20. So that bottom layer, you should have gotten 20 cubic units. Hopefully you didn't count them one by one. If you did, it's a start. I'll take it. Then, do you remember what to do with that? The 20 units? You're going to multiply that by how many layers there are. So we're multiplying 20 by 3 to get a total volume of 60 cubic units. Ooh, ooh, we're gonna do a happy dance because you got it. Boop, boop. Okay, we're gonna bump it up a little bit. Sometimes they give you an image that is a rectangular prism. There's no color to it. There's no cubes to it. Why do we do this? This is because it's more real-like scenario. You have an object and you're measuring how much space it takes up. Well, space is clear. We can't touch it, can't hold it. It just is there. So we want to know on how we can look inside this rectangular prism and calculate the amount of space it takes up. So the easiest way to do that is to take the length, and this time, instead of units, we're using an actual unit of measure, inches. Our length is 9 inches. Our width is 3 inches. And our height is 6 inches. So we're going to multiply to find our base. 9 by 3 by 6. Well, 9 times 3 is 27. And we're going to multiply that by the height, or how many layers there were. 6. This gives you a total volume of 162 cubic inches. Once again, it's not square inches, it's not regular inches, it's cubic inches. We are finding the dimensions of 3 parts: length, width, and height. That's why we call it cubic inches. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at a practice problem. You know what that means? Boo, boo, boo. Pause the video. You didn't pause it, did you? Come on, press the pause button. I'll be here waiting for you on the other side. All right, let's do this. Let's check your work. Remember, if you made any mistakes, pause it. See what went wrong. Maybe it could have been a simple multiplication error. Our length is 3. Oh, I should have given you the dimensions before you paused it. Our width is 2. And our height is 12. Now you can pause the video. You can pause it. All right, now let's check to see if you were right. So this time we had a length of 3, a width of 2, and a height of 12. Multiplying the 3 by 2 is 6. Taking that 6, that base square inches, and multiplying it by 12 gives you a total volume of 72 cubic inches. If you got it right, go ahead and do your little party dance. If you got it wrong, just figure out why. All right. Now that you're done with this problem, let's go on to the next one. This one has a missing dimension. What I mean by that is this time they give you the area. That is already calculated for you. Hats off to whoever did that. Secondly, they want to know what's the height. They're not going to give you that one. And lastly, they give you the total volume of the rectangular prism, 1,350 cubic inches. So you have the total volume and you have the base. What's the height? How do we find this? So the first thing we're going to start off with is anytime we're given the total already, we want to use that to our advantage. So 1,350 cubic inches, divide that by your area, which was 225, and you get a total of 6 inches. So your missing height is 6. This can work with any one. They may not just give you an area, they may give you the length and the width. Multiply that length width together and divide it by your total. They might give you the height and the width. Multiply those together and divide it by your total to find that missing dimension. Pew, 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 pew. You know what time it is. It's time to practice. Once again, they give you the total. They don't give you the height, and they give you the area. So do you remember what you're doing? Pause, pause, pause. Stop the video. Stop the video. Pause, 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 pause. I'm back. All right, let's see if you got this. 162 divided by 54 gave you a total answer of 3. So your missing height was 3. All right. You can take a break if you want, or let's keep going. Finding a volume of a cube this time is a little bit easier than a rectangular prism. A cube has all sides or dimensions that are equal, just kind of like a square. So if the dimensions are equivalent or equal, that means that when one side is provided for you, like an 8, all the other sides are going to be equivalent to 8. The length, the width, and the height. So because they are equal, this makes it easiest on you. You simply multiply your 8 by another 8. Oh, wait, by another 8 again. And after you're multiplying those together, you get a total of 512 cubic inches. This time, I want you to see if you can do it. What's that? Oh, yeah. Pause your video. Try it out. Did you pause? Did you stop me yet? Are you practicing? Do you have paper pencil? Are you trying to do it in your head? Are you trying to do it on a calculator? Use that paper pencil. Pause this video. Try your best. Oh, so glad you're back. Let's check it out. We've got a 7 as a length, a 7 as a width, and a 7 as a height. So when you calculate these 7s, you get a total of 343 cubic inches. Now, this is where I want you to take a deep breath. You might want to save this part for another day. If you haven't stopped yet and you have more time, continue with me. Additive or composite volume is when you find the volume of more than one rectangular prism. That's right, I said it, more than one. So we might have the dimensions of one rectangular prism or cube, and we might have the dimensions or volume of a rectangular prism. And then what you're going to do is you're going to add or combine them together to find one total volume. Sounds complicated? Because it is. So let's break this down. As an easier level, I've kind of shown you 2 different colors, and I've already divided the cube from the rectangular prism. It's easy to see where one starts and where the other one ends, okay? So let's take a look at the volume of the teal figure. Remember, the length of this teal figure, how long it is 3 feet. The height is 2. Now, some might be wondering, how in the world did you get that? There is no 2 going vertical. Well, I took the length of the 7 feet going along the entire shape. And then notice the pink figure is 5 feet. So 7 feet minus that 5 feet gives you the height of the teal figure, 2. And lastly, how wide it is 2. Now, this gets tricky because of the fact that down below, the pink figure has a 2 there. So how do I know the teal figure also has a width of 2? That's because they line up perfectly in their width. It fits total from front to back. They're completely equal. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply these together to get a total volume of 12 cubic feet. Next, going on to the pink figure, a length of 8, a width of 2, and a height of 5. 8 times 2 is 16. 16 times 5 is 80 cubic feet. I'm not done. You need to take the total volume, and to do that, we take the 12 cubic feet, add it to the 80 cubic feet to get a total of a composite volume of 92 cubic feet. All right, this one's going to be a doozy. Get your paper pencil, practice. If you need, go back. Try it out. It might be tough, but you got this. Did you pause me? Pause. Pause that video. Don't try to cheat. Don't just watch this. Practice. Paused? All right. Let's see if you got the right answer. So that was the volume of the teal figure. That's the volume of the pink figure. And you get a total volume of 288 cubic feet. Woohoo! All right, last one. This time it's not so easy. This is the most complex part of your standard. We have two objects, except they're not really two of them, it's one, and it's just one big random shape. So this is where I try to separate the shape into two parts. I can easily highlight them using a color, or you can just draw a line and label it, figure A, figure B, whatever works for you. I try to figure out which one I can calculate the length, width, and height on. If you're not able to easily calculate the length, width, and height on the shape, decide to maybe draw a line or separate it elsewhere. Okay, there's always more than one way to separate your shapes. In this case, I've got the volume of figure A, or the teal figure, has a length of 9 that's listed on the top. That length or width, that width of 12 is completely equal to the front and back of the bottom figure, and a height of 6, which gives me a volume of that teal figure or figure A of 648 cubic feet. Now we've got figure B, or the pink figure. We have a length of 27, a height of 12, a width of 12, and a height of 6. When I multiply that together, I get 1,944 cubic feet. In order to find that composite volume, we need to add those two together. 648 cubic feet plus the 1,944 cubic feet to get a total of 2,592 cubic feet. All right, this is your last practice problem. One thing that I want you to do is I want you to try to separate them using a color or just labeling. So on the right-hand side, I've showed you a way of how to list out your measurements per each figure. Try that out. That's the easiest to keep your work organized. Pause the video, pause the video, pause the video, pause the video, pause, and come back to me. You didn't stop the video, did you? Try it out. Okay, let's go through and check your work. Our length was 4 feet, our width is 2 feet, and our height is 5. How did I get 5? I took the 8, that was the combined height, subtracted the 3 height from the bottom object, and got 5. So the 8 minus the 3 gave me 5 feet for this figure A, or teal box. Multiplying those together, 8 times 5 is 40 cubic feet. We've got figure B. The length was 6 feet, the width was 2 feet, and the height was 3 feet. 6 times 2 is 12 feet, times the 3 gives you 36 cubic feet. And lastly, to find the combined total, 40 cubic feet plus the 36 cubic feet gave you a total of 76 cubic feet. I hope this video has really helped. I hope that you try it out, practice, rewatch, and hopefully in the long run, this will help you become more successful and more confident in understanding how to calculate the dimensions of volume. Thanks for watching.